Okay, here we are. Jensen, thank you so very much for doing this. This is another recovery story. And Jensen, we're going to walk through your case um, and explore what you've been going through. Now, we first started communicating about a year ago. So I think it was May 2024. And then you filled out my intake forms in June, end of June 2024, and we kind of started to work formally together as of then. It's now July 2025. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Jensen. Tell us the age you were when your symptoms began. Tell us what you were doing. Give us a tiny bit of background. Paint a picture for us.
Cool. First of all, thank you so much for having me. These videos were meant a lot to me, like watching them when I was in a quite a dark place. So it's quite a powerful moment for me to be sat here doing one of these now, having got through all of those difficulties. But yeah, so a bit of background to me. So just to set the scene, I was in my final year of university and life was pretty good. I was having a really good time. I was super confident. I was going out a lot. I was playing football and I just started dating a girl that I really liked. So everything was going quite well and I was quite happy. And that was probably until about December, January when I started having some symptoms that I wasn't too fond of. So, first of all, it started with kind of pain in my lower back and in my right hip. And I didn't really think too much of it. I've had aches and pains before, as comes with being an amateur footballer. And yeah, I didn't really think too much of it. Didn't really have any concerns. But then I started having other symptoms, such as kind of urinary problems and also problems in the bedroom, which is not something that a man in his early 20s or of any age wants to experience. Um, so that was kind of when alarm bells started to ring, and I was kind of thinking something's going wrong here. But this is a bit, I need to get this looked at. So I did the classic, booked an appointment with my GP, and yeah, I got a few. They didn't really know what was going on. I got a few diagnoses, but yeah, that was kind of the start of the journey.
Thank you, Jensen, and thank you for your honesty and for your openness. And as you said, these stories have been massively helpful for you. And here you are, you're now doing one of those stories. So you're full circle here. You're absolutely full circle. Tell us about the impact. You've mentioned some of the symptoms there. Tell me about the impact of them, because as a young 20-year-old man, having some of these symptoms that you didn't want, tell us about some of the ripples. You can mention some of the symptoms here, but tell us how this was starting to influence you as an individual.
Yeah, well, I think so. Pain. I'm not going to sit here and say it was the most excruciating pain you could ever experience. I've had some pretty bad football injuries in the past, which have been extremely painful. But when you have a dull, kind of low grade pain or inflammation, and it just lasts for ages and ages and ages and weeks on end, it's really kind of it's really hard to deal with because you just have no rest, you have no respite from it. And also that stopped me from playing football. And playing football is kind of my tool to get through any difficulties in life. Because when I play, I have that escape. It doesn't matter if I've had the worst day in the world. Playing football is like my complete switch off where I forget about everything else and I just focus on the game. So with that pain and not being able to do that was really, really difficult. And I think it's not just the physical lack of escape, it's also the mental lack of escape when you're experiencing pain from that, because you're just thinking about the pain the whole time and your body is reminding you of it the whole time as well. So that's one side of things. In terms of the other symptoms that I mentioned earlier, like the urinary or bedroom issues, I think they were not just frustrating but distressing, because they're kind of issues I'd never experienced before, and issues I'd never really heard of someone, especially like my age, having. Um, and so yeah, that was quite worrying at the time. And when I felt that the GPs or the doctors or medical professionals that I was seeing weren't really getting to the bottom of things, that's also that was a really unique place to be in and really worrying for me. And that's when I started to catastrophize and endlessly search on ChatGPT or Google for an answer because I felt like I wasn't getting an answer from the people that I usually trusted with my medical problems.
That's gold. Thank you, Jensen. And you'd visited, I've got your notes here. You'd visited a couple of different people as well, including physios, including a back specialist, including urologist, and they, as you said, they weren't going anywhere. You'd had things like ultrasound, MRI. You went to A&E because your symptoms were getting worse. You'd had things like your testosterone levels checked by the GP. You were given exercises to help loosen your back, Mackenzie exercises. There was talk of the anterior pelvic tilt causing your symptoms. And this is an awful lot to be going through without clarity of what is happening and also how then to get out of this successfully either.
Yeah, yeah. And I think over the course of over a year, I must have seen about 15 to 20 medical professionals, whether that was physiotherapists, back specialists, like you said, urologists. And I think definitely that is the right thing to go about it when you first have symptoms like this. Go to your GP, go to any specialists they recommend, rule out all of the nasties. I think that is 100% the right thing to do because there are so many conditions that have overlapping symptoms that it is important to kind of rule out something that could be very bad. Um, so it was more that just after I had those things ruled out and I didn't know what was going on, and I noticed that all of the medical professionals that I was seeing were more speculating, and I completely lost all confidence in like finding an answer to what was going on, which was a really difficult place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, completely. I mean, we put our faith and trust in the medical system, and you right as you rightly said, Jensen, it's really important to go and rule out something sinister, to rule out any medical red flags, to make sure that there isn't anything that does require immediate medical attention. And when that had been ruled out, and you're given these you mentioned some speculation around what might be going on for you. That's I mean that's not helpful either, is it? You want concrete, like this is what it is, this is what we're going to do, and this is the way out.
Yeah, and I think over time, when you've had this frustration going on, it's a really weird thing almost to say, but at times you hope and you think, I actually wouldn't mind if it's something like a little bit more sinister,
Mm.
even if I can just get an answer so I know exactly where I'm standing and I can get a treatment because the loop of not knowing what is going on is it's not just physically bad, it's the mental kind of catastrophization and hysteria that comes with it is paralyzing almost.
Absolutely, yeah, and I've heard it so many times before. Patients wish that there was something more concrete, even, and this might sound um, tough to hear. It's certainly tough to say, but some patients might say, I wish I had cancer, because at least then there's a clear pathway of, I know what it is, it's going to be treated, it's well documented, and there's loads of support and loads of care out there. It's well spoken about now, and yeah, there's a clear method to treatment.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also I think the what we're accustomed to in kind of the current society and like medical world is you usually have an issue or a medical issue or a disease or whatever, and someone prescribes you a pill or some medication, and you just add that to your life for a short while, and then everything goes away. And because we're so used to that, it's very strange when that's not how things work. Um, it's in the case that I had. And like that's a really frustrating thing to have. I was dying for someone to just tell me, here's the pill that's gonna fix you. You don't have to change anything else, and it's gonna be easy like that. But it wasn't the case.
No, no, as you found out as well. But when we met, I think we were messaging when initially you were in South America. I think we were messaging when you came back from Glastonbury. You were just about to start a new job when we first started seeing each other in the summer of 2024. You had a long, long list of symptoms that were happening in a range of areas in your body, including all the way from your neck, all the way down to your hip, all the way down to your feet. So the symptoms, you were going through an awful lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And I haven't even really mentioned all of the stuff that kind of developed with it. But so I said before that not being able to play football was bad, but the pain kind of got to a point where it was uncomfortable to sit for prolonged amount of times. Or if I was like standing up on the train, I felt like I felt like something was wrong with like my posture and I couldn't feel comfortable. Um, if I was like walking for a prolonged amount of times as well, like it would be really tough. And the other thing that I found really difficult was I would see physios and they would say, okay, you can't play football or do any exercise, but you need to be really active. And that's like for me, I was like, what do you want me to do? Like I can't just be walking aimlessly for days on end. But to be fair, walking was something that was quite good for me at the start of my recovery for quite a few reasons actually.
We'll come on to a little bit of that, and we'll come on to what we did together, what you then implemented yourself. Um, are you okay to dive into some of the locations where you were getting the symptoms? We've mentioned some pain, we've mentioned sitting. Are you okay to give a little bit more fine detail there to give the audience an idea as to what you were exactly experiencing?
Yeah, so the pain kind of like moved around, but the main areas would be like the lower right side of my back and right on the front of my right hip. And I wouldn't really have it in many other places. That those were the two main areas, but I also had um like I would wake up and my neck would be super stiff, and if I like put my neck back, it would like crunch and click. And I think yeah, I did have some pain on the side of my neck. Everything seemed to be on the right side, which was strange. And obviously, I was searching frantically, like, is it my mattress? All sorts of things, like what is causing this? But yeah.
And the urinary symptoms, how are they presenting for you?
It was more the frequency of like weeing the whole time, which is really inconvenient in social scenarios and stuff, like having to go to the toilet all the time, especially if people ask you like, are you all right? You keep going to the loo. Um, but also be quite painful at times urinating, which is not fun. Um, and yeah. But I'm just thinking back now, it's all coming back to me because it kind of becomes a bit of a blur. But I even went to see someone about my gait. So like was I walking in the right way and was that transferring into like the all of these different kind of issues? But yeah.
Just so some of the sensations and some of the things that you're experiencing. Um, I'm just gonna So for the rustling of papers in the background. Um, Cold sensations, burning sensations, tightness, lots and lots of tightness, particularly when standing, right hip, sitting for more than a certain length of time as well. It was a lot to be going through symptoms happening daily, sometimes sporadic, sometimes shifting, sometimes on sitting, sometimes on standing, sometimes on movement and exercise as well, whether that was just walking, playing something more active, or standing on a tube, like you said.
Yeah. And I think I remember as well, there was one day where I was doing some volunteering for a charity and I had to be up on my feet all day, taking people around on like a tour of this place. And I was just in absolute bits at the end of the day. And I was thinking, I'm 22 at the time, and how I've literally like this is not shouldn't be that strenuous on me. Why am I experiencing all of this pain just from standing and walking? And yeah, it was really difficult to like not have any answers to that.
Mm-hmm. Let's thank you, Jensen. Let's explore some of what we started to do together then to give the audience a bit of an idea. Um, when we met, um, you were avoiding football and any activity that might cause any symptoms. You were doing some Mackenzie exercises, some pelvic floor exercises, breathing, stretching. You were using a massage gun, doing some abdominal massage. You were working from home, and also in the office. No coffee, no fizzy drinks. They were some of the practical things that you were doing. You were also experiencing tightness in breathing as well and struggling to breathe. So some of the things that we started to do together, like the absolute foundational elements of my approach is about calming your system down. Like the first and foremost, how can we get your symptoms more calm more of the time? And I put together a bit more of a formal plan for you. The first aim in my patient's recovery is about calming things down, getting your system calm. So we looked at some supplementation to help calm your digestion down, and calm your nervous system down, including some slippery elm, some magnesium, some abdominal massage more formally. So let's do it morning and nighttime. I encouraged you to do slightly more mindful breathing. So 3-4 breathing everywhere, particularly on your commute to and from work. We spoke about getting more fluid into your system as well, getting you drinking more water. And I gave you some relaxing movements and yoga. Again, that was more towards the end of the day. So I started to give you this quite structured program and plan to start to implement.
Yeah.
How did you find that to begin with? Because like sometimes that structure can be quite overwhelming as well, particularly when you've got a job, you've got a commute, you've got other responsibilities as well.
Yeah, I think it's like a really interesting point that you mentioned is about the breathing. Because like I was saying before, everyone's kind of looking for the silver bullet, the pill that's going to make you better, whether that's actual physical medicine or it's some exercises that you've been prescribed. If I do this every day, I will be completely good. And I'd been told by a few people to do kind of breathing exercises to help me. And I've been trying them for a long time, but like you said, I was struggling to kind of do deep breathing. Um, and that was super frustrating because it was like I have the motivation to do all of these exercises consistently and I want to be doing them, but I actually like physically can't. And that was even more annoying. But I think the other key point is when you're recovering from something like this, you have to make a lot of promises to yourself, and you have to take on a lot of different changes at times. And something that I learned is it's so important to follow through and be realistic with yourself about like what you're taking on. And there's an example kind of that I came up with in my head that I like to think of, which is an analogy where if you had a friend and every day that friend made a plan with you, or you made a friend with you made a plan with that friend to see them every day, and some days they didn't turn up, some days they were late, then eventually, after a certain amount of time, you wouldn't want to be friends with that person. So I think it's so important to not cultivate that kind of relationship with yourself. And when you keep making promises with yourself and then not delivering on them or not fully delivering on them in the way that you would have liked to, eventually that just eats away at your self-esteem, your motivation to recover. And I think the mental aspect is really, really important in getting over something like chronic pain.
So thank you, Jensen. There's expectations of where we want to be. Like this is showing up every day, doing the self-care. Then there's the reality of life, and often there's a mix match there as well, isn't there? They don't marry up, and then that can cause some further distress. And I'm not getting the progress I want to. My symptoms aren't changing. It's influencing my life. And it can be a real struggle to get that momentum moving in the right direction. I remember us having long conversations around things like your morning routine and getting up and getting out of the house. And you commute to London a handful of times a week, and that commute could often be quite finely timed and not allowing time for you to do the things that would help to calm your body down before your day began.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And I think that was one of the things I really recognized when I first came to see you was that instead of just looking for that pill that was going to make me better, I needed to look within what am I doing every day and what are all of the little things that are contributing to putting my body in this state of chronic pain, of dis-ease as well. So yeah, that was a big thing. And I think morning routine, especially what morning and evening routine were things I was getting really wrong. And I wasn't aware of that. Like every day I would wake up in a rush, and that's no way to start a day. It's like saying if Usain Bolt has a race and he doesn't do a warm up before, he's going to get injured. And in the same way, if you wake up every day and you don't give your mind the chance to warm up at the start of the day, and you just go straight into running for the bus, or if you're working from home, straight into a meeting after rolling out of bed, your mind is going to be like, whoa, like what's going on here? And over time, you're injuring your mind just like a runner would injure themselves. And you're putting your body at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about cultivating that right environment. Absolutely spot on. I've got some comments from our sessions when this was kind of late October 2024. Struggling to get into a routine with life, not coping. I don't feel depressed, but I'm not doing what I want to at the moment, and there's not much enjoyment in life as well. New projects at work. There was a holiday to Lanzarote. It was a good trip. So some nice things in there, but some challenges. You were also getting some CBT, and you saw a clinical hypnotherapist as well. And the aim here is to try and realize that this isn't just happening in the pelvic floor or the hip, but actually the way we feel. Not that it's all in our head, but the way we feel and the way we interact with life and our response or often our reactions to things can really wind us up or calm us down. There were some symptoms that kept on changing. You would wake up and it felt like you were holding urine. So already when you're waking up, your body's in this stressed state already, and then it's, as you said, kind of starting the race immediately from waking up without any of that buffer zone or that introduction to life. So we spoke about again having a bit more of a morning and an evening routine. It wasn't very sexy. I was encouraging you to get up a little bit early, and I was encouraging you to go to bed a little bit early as well. We were allowing some space in there for social time, for catching up with family, for going out as well. And I was encouraging you to start to do the couch to 5K. So there were quite a few things here. A bit more of a fixed routine, getting you to become a little bit more active, and then looking at how our anxiety and our mind can be part of this as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just mentally, I still had like really good friends and I was things in my life I was really enjoying, but the mental state I was in was I can't wait to live my life after this passes. And that's a tough place to be in when it goes on for like a year. And I think like any people can relate to that. When you feel ill, you think, oh, I can't wait to like till I feel healthy again. And with chronic pain, you kind of are thinking, oh, when I'm pain free, I'm gonna have no excuse to like not live my best life. And yeah, that was kind of the mental state that I was in for a while.
So it feels there that life is on pause. I can't
Yeah,
do X until I'm over this. There's no way I can even consider doing Y until I'm fully out of this.
yeah.
And that can put pressure on us as well, can't it?
Definitely, definitely. And yeah, it's difficult to when you're putting so much of your life kind of on pause, even just mentally, it's difficult to then feel, okay, at work, I'm going to be progressing. I'm going to be trying progressing in a relationship when you've kind of got all of this that you feel is holding you back at the same time. It's a bit of it was definitely a confusing time, I would
Mm,
say.
yeah, completely understandably. It becomes front and center to our thoughts, to our actions, to our behaviors. It becomes a filter to our decisions for life as well. We forward to the start of this year. You've been able to manage and control your symptoms, but there can feel like you're on the edge of your symptoms, certainly in particular areas as well. Your muscular pain is better, and yeah, you were starting to see a shift at the start of this year. I again was encouraging you to be really clear about how to spend your time wisely. We're going to come on to your five pillars very shortly, something that you came up with, something that you identified yourself as being pivotal in your journey to recovery. And I was encouraging you again to become a little bit more active, but at the same time, rest and restore your system as well. There was also some other symptoms, other health conditions that were starting to pop up around this time as well.
Yeah, yeah. So at the time as well, I was having some problems with like my skin, like eczema, which is not fun. And then I was questioning whether that was linked to this, and that kind of added back into the catastrophizing and what's going on. Do I have some crazy autoimmune condition and is my life expectancy gonna be, yeah, all of those kind of crazy questions that come into play. But yeah, and I think one of the analogies that really resonated that you mentioned at the start of when I was seeing you was this kind of water bottle, and that loads of different things contribute to how full that water bottle is, and add stress to your mind and your body. And when there are too many things, that water bottle overflows, and that's when you kind of you get bad levels of chronic pain and stuff. And I started to notice that kind of when certain stresses were removed, I would maybe feel a bit better. So if I did have a trip away, sometimes my symptoms would start to feel a little bit better.
And there was a great example then, wasn't there? And Thailand was revelatory in this experience as well as well, tell us what you did in Thailand. So from going when you're in the UK, you were doing your job, there was a bit of uncertainty about even walking, let alone the concept of jogging. And there was a little bit of exploration into it. It was something I was encouraging, but understandably, completely understandably, there was a lot of fear associated with that. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to make this thing worse. I'm being told to do something, and it's not necessarily making you always feel better 100% of the time, but my aim here was to build resilience and confidence back in your body so as you could progressively start to exercise a little bit more as well. But Thailand was pivotal for you, and that was at the start. When was that? February, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And I think before that trip, so the few months before that trip, I'd actually started to feel a big improvement in kind of like just a lot of aspects of life. So my pain levels went down a lot. But yeah, I did experiment with like going for a couple of runs, and on both occasions, I was in like pain when I was running, and I was like, "Oh, that's like such a huge setback," because for a while I'd felt like the pain was going, but I still couldn't run, which meant I couldn't play football. Um, so that was quite frustrating. But yeah, when I went to Thailand, obviously I was like super busy while I was there. I was doing a lot of cool things, exploring with my friends. Um, and I had an opportunity to play football while I was there, and I couldn't say no to it, and I felt completely fine. I mean, I was so unfit because I hadn't played for a while, but I didn't have any pain while I was playing, and that was like a big kind of moment for me. And I just thought, okay, my body's in a state now where it can play football. I've got to just keep doing what I've been doing. Um, from all aspects. And like you said, I'll get into kind of my five pillar framework that I was really leaning into and still am. And yeah, I kind of just ran with it from there.
Mm. You also did, I mean, you were literally running with it from there, weren't you? You were also snorkeling, you'd been kayaking, you felt almost ready for a while now. So there was some you wanted to start to live, and it was finding that catalyst, finding that invitation to go, let's play football. Let's go and do some physical activity, and for there not to have been the consequences of pain. Activity that's then accompanied by pain can be very destructive, and it can massively affect our confidence in our activity and potential for success. But this time it didn't come accompanied with pain, and that was a real catalyst. And you started playing more football, you started to get your own team together as well, and you started to have a bit more of a better balance in life. And tell us about your five pillars, because this was absolutely pivotal, and you came up with these yourself, Jensen. So tell us about them.
Yeah, so I think, like I said at the start of when I was seeing you, there was a lot of like good stuff that I was trying to take on. But for me, especially, I find it quite overwhelming when there's like loads of things that I need to change at once. So there was one night where I was kind of thinking about it, and I have a whiteboard in my room, which is quite random. But I got up and I was like, I need to categorize this just so I can kind of get my head around it, see it clearly, and know like what I need to do. And I came up with five pillars. I'm happy to talk about each of them briefly as well, but they're nutrition and hydration is the first one. The second one is sleep. The third one is movement. The fourth one is relaxation. And the fifth one is joy. A lot of those things sound really obvious and are talked about like quite a lot, I think, just in society, but acting on them is one thing. Um, that it can be quite difficult. It's not just about like knowing what to do, it's actually acting on it. And also I learned a lot of things that I didn't know in those areas that would inevitably go on to help me a lot. So if it's cool, I'll just like speak a bit about them. So yeah, the first one, nutrition and hydration. I've always been notoriously bad at drinking water. In a way, it was actually like my family would always like make jokes about it and stuff. But yeah, so first things first, got much better at just like I had 2 liter water bottles, and I still do, I have it right here right now. And I'm just constantly drinking them. And I also got some like electrolytes as well, just to help with keeping me hydrated, especially if I'm doing exercise. Nutrition, everyone talks about like a balanced, healthy diet, which is so important for your whole body. I think I mean, the phrase trusting your gut is, I think that's where it comes from. Like the link between your mind and your gut is so important. And I think I would trust a gut that's been filled with a nice, healthy salad rather than a gut that's filled with loads of rubbish junk food. So yeah, healthy food. But I think the things I didn't know as much about was that I was often overeating and eating way too quickly. And those were two things that were negatively impacting me a lot of the time. I wouldn't have frequent meals throughout the day. I'd have like one or two massive meals and then just be completely overwhelmed. And I think that adds to putting stress on your body. So yeah, that's a bit about the first pillar. The second one, I think might be, they're all very important, but this one might be the most. So sleep and circadian rhythm is was like probably the biggest game changer for me. So I think the thing that people obsess over in society is length of sleep. Have you got your 8 hours? And the conversation often doesn't extend much from there. But the two things that I added to that were um, how can I improve the quality of my sleep? And am I regularly sleeping at the same times every day? Um, and like that's so important because if your body is in a routine, it's in a cycle, it's going to be much more at ease and it's going to put you at less of a chance of dis-ease. Um, so yeah, so the things that I did to help me with that were not going on my phone or screens just before going to bed, um, making sure I was going to bed at similar sort of time, to ensure that I got enough hours, waking up at a similar time as well every morning. And the first thing I do every morning now is before I go on my phone, go straight out for a walk. And it's scientifically proven that if you go outside, even in cloudy England, first thing in the morning, that exposure to photons and sunlight naturally um, that actually physically wakes your body up, and you don't get that from artificial light indoors. So doing that every morning is so important. And the other thing that I struggled with in terms of sleep before was falling asleep at night, which is a horrible, horrible thing, especially when you're trying to recover from something to do with your health because I think everyone knows that sleep is like the best chance, the best time to recover from things. And when you can't sleep, it's even more distressing. So I had a think and like I was thinking, why when I go to sleep do I have all of these racing thoughts in my head and I can't like just switch off? And there was a point when I realized, hold on, I don't actually allow myself to have those racing thoughts at any other point in the day. So that's why it was so important for me to go on walks without headphones, without my phone, and just no stimulation. Just go for a walk, even if it's 5, 10 minutes, just let my mind do what it needs to do. And I promise you, I'm not just saying this, my sleep with all of those different things is like perfect now. I don't wake up every day feeling rubbish. And it's also obviously helped massively with my pain, and all of my other symptoms. So sorry, I went on quite a lot about that, but I'm quite passionate about it. The third one is movement. So it's yeah, it's so important to be moving all the time. Um, and I think it's difficult, especially when you're experiencing chronic pain and people are telling you don't play football, don't run, and you're thinking like, what do you want me to do? It's very easy to just stay slouched on your phone. And my job as well is it's a desk-based job. So 9 to 5, being hunched over a desk, bad posture is not really a great way to be. That definitely didn't help my cause. So yeah, I made sure I was conscious about my posture, going for frequent walks, even just 2 or 3 minutes. Um, was really good. I also got some exercises from you, which were really beneficial. And the other thing I would say about them, so like the stretches that you get from Karl, don't go too intense with them. At the start, I was given these stretches and movements, and I was so eager to just get rid of all of my symptoms that I went really hard and it just made things 10 times worse. If you do those exercises mindfully and gently and more often, you'll get so much more out of them. But yeah, I think movement was a really, really big one because especially when you're feeling rubbish about what everything going on, it's very easy to just sit in your bed and go on your laptop and watch Netflix. Um, the next one is relaxation, the next pillar. And that is one that I think I've really misunderstood before because I would, if someone asked me 2 years ago, do you relax often? I'd say I relax all the time. I watch TV or I go out with mates or yeah, I listen to music on my headphones and just chill. But actually giving yourself the time to fully switch off with no stimulation whatsoever is so important. So it was that kind of goes back into what I was saying about going for those walks without any headphones or without my phone. Um, is really important. Or if it's meditation for you or yoga, whatever really works. But having a time where you're actually giving your body just a chance to consciously switch off and do nothing, that's a relaxation that you need. And that's not to say that like watching TV is a bad thing. It's definitely a good thing because it can make you feel good if you're watching a good series or movie. But I think it's also important, in addition to that, to just give yourself some time, even if it's a few minutes a day, just to completely switch off. Um, and then the final one is fun or joy. Have stuff to look forward to always. Every day I try and have something to enjoy, and it's a good way to be, definitely. And instead of focusing on at the time, oh, I can't play football, I can't do this, I have this symptom, I have that. When you have something to look forward to, whether it's in the evening after work or even if it's looking forward to something at the weekend, like that's, yeah, so important to have that. And also like we're really hard on ourselves. Well, especially speaking for myself, I was super hard on myself, and that's not always a bad thing to have high standards from yourself. But I think at the same time, celebrate the wins. If you're gonna be really difficult with yourself on all of the losses, all of the difficult times you're going through, balance it out by any good thing, really like grasp it. Don't be embarrassed. I think it's quite a British thing sometimes that we get embarrassed to kind of like make a big deal of good things that happen. But really like celebrate the wins. So yeah, those are the five pillars.
That's gold. Thank you so much, Jensen. How are you doing now? Like, tell us. We've learnt where you were when this began, what was going on for you. We learnt about your symptoms, what we've done, and then your five pillars as well. Tell the listeners how you're doing now.
I would say I'm fully back to normal, but the reality is I'm much better than that. So all of my symptoms have gone away. And the thing is, I know now if anything came back, I would know how to approach it differently. And actually, last month I picked up an infection and I was a bit ill. It was just random, probably COVID or something. And it put me back a bit. I was obviously in bed for a few days. I was run down and I started to feel a bit of a niggle in my hip. And instead of like catastrophizing, I was like, okay, I've got through this before, and now I understand it's not a disease in its own self. It's not an infection or something like that. It's just my body saying, "Whoa, this is a lot right now. I'm in overdrive." And kind of when I recovered from that and I leaned even more into my five pillars, then it completely went away. So yeah, I think it's just also understanding that it's it's your body's way of kind of messaging that yeah, things are going a bit crazy right now. We need to just chill out. And I think that's super common. I think everyone has this, but it presents in different ways. When I was younger, whenever I was a bit run down, I would get pain in my throat, which I think is super common. Or you get that kind of tickle, and if you relax a bit, it goes away. But if you keep going crazy, then it could develop into full-blown tonsillitis. And this is very similar to that. But I think the key difference is you take it a lot more personally when it's in the pelvic kind of region than if it's your throat. One, because it's a more sensitive region based on some of the symptoms that it generates, but also because it's way less talked about. So there's not that much guidance on like what is actually going on and how to get through it. But yeah, I think it's just about knowing it's your body's message of telling you things need to calm down. And for me, leaning into my five pillar framework always resolves it now. So yeah, where I am right now, I have no symptoms. Um, but I would also say I'm living a much healthier lifestyle than before this whole journey. So in a quite weird way to say this, there are good things overall have come out of this, in that I'm much healthier than I was before. I understand my body much more, and I'll have that knowledge for the rest of my life. And also, hopefully, I'll be able to help people kind of who are going through a similar thing.
Golden. Well, let's have a message then for someone who's been where you were when you first saw these recovery stories. What message would you give to someone else who's listening to this at the moment?
The message I would give is firstly, if you're watching this video, you're nearly there. Um, and that's not to say things are going to get easy straight away, but the biggest difficulty was kind of not knowing what was going on. And the message I'll give is if you're with Carl, you're in the complete right hands, and he will guide you just like he guided me into a complete full recovery. And it is possible to get rid of all of these symptoms, which is something that I really wanted to hear. I think this time last year when I was in a bad place after kind of a year and a half to 2 years of kind of frustration. Yeah, it's possible to get rid of these symptoms completely, and I'm proof of that. Um, and yeah, you've got this. Just dig deep. It requires a lot of trust in yourself, and faith and patience, which is really difficult. But yeah, you can get through it.
Wonderful, wise words. Thank you so much again, Jensen. It's been a pleasure catching up, um, and for you to share your story. What a turnaround from where you were this time last year. So congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. So, yeah, thank you so much for all of your help.